Welcome. This is the January 28th Jail and Zones production user call. We have Niklas, Jan, Antranik, Rod, Noor, and myself, Michael. And Niklas has some jail.conf questions relating to the name variable. If you want to introduce yourself, go for it, but there's no pressure to. You have the floor.
Yeah, so I'm exploring the jail.base tools a little bit more, and I followed the handbook, which was a little bit was updated last summer, and it's pretty good. I came across two things. The one is the suggestion I will write up, and I also discussed with Noor today. That's basically in the handbook example, for the start execution, the RC script is executed before the network commands inside the jail. And if you do so, this creates a situation where the IP address you configure in the jail isn't present when, for example, I have the problem with unbound. That unbound can't bind to the IP because the ifconfig commands to setting the IP are executed after the RC script. Yes, I can share this. A moment, please.
And I can format it if you drop it in the chat or doc. So the doc, I'll drop a link to the doc. It saves a step for some things. And friendly reminder, sanitize things before you share them with the group, such as LDAP passwords from Montenegro, which I did my best to mask out in the video.
Yeah, it's a development VM on my MacBook, so there should be nothing interesting. So maybe I have to shorten it a little bit. Let's see where we start.
And if it's sanitized, I can shorten and reformat and change the font, etc. as appropriate. So don't worry about wrapping.
One moment.
Oh, there we go.
One more.
Sure.
One moment, please.
Maybe character too
much. Yeah. Discord. Get away with this.
I move the PR thing. Oops. And Jan, are you futzing with? Oh, we go nicely done. I'll just make it fixed.
So this is with dynamic IPv6, but we can also eliminate this if we want. It's not the point. The point is that when we also did the verbose output for the start. The point is that if this line, so the last start command, is recommended first. So if you take a look to the handbook.
And that's post. So then the networking, it's, oh, I see. Well, networking.
That's all pretty accurate, by the way. Let me go over it again in case I missed anything.
I invested maybe a day to get it all working with my dynamic IPv6
so we have
address distribution in my pod, and this is the official one from the handbook.
Yes. Yeah. That's actually from my blog post, so very familiar.
And the difference is the RC is the first in the exec command. And if you do this, you have the problem that the require native statement in your startup script doesn't
very
be respected. And that's
So
so.
yeah,
So-
that is true. I do recommend having the RC in the end. Like we've actually tried this with a lot of things, and we realized that having doing the networking manually and then running the RC makes a
Yes.
lot more sense in almost every scenario.
I
And
have to
that was-
disagree.
Okay, one at a
Go on,
time.
Jan.
Go ahead, Jan.
This is the question. Is it a good
Okay,
default or not?
So you're creating basically there are three types of networking for jails. You're picking the most flexible but also most complicated one, which is VNet, where the jail has its own network stack. The simpler ones are alias-based networking, and the very simple but often useless one is just to inherit the full network stack to the jail. So what you have to do is you have to treat the jail as if it is a normal FreeBSD system in almost all regards. Because of that, if you want to manage it through jail.conf, there are multiple ways you can do it, but the best one I've found so far, in my opinion, is to use sysrc to write to the jail's rc.conf through either the created or early start hooks. So pre-start runs on the host. Start inside the jail. Created would also run inside the jail, but after the jail has been created. But I don't know if it at that point already has its full interface set. So, but if you're like here, not using it completely, and yeah, that works. So you're in the pre-start hook creating a new E pair, which is fine. The problem is it will explode on you if the E pair already exists.
That's true,
So,
yes.
So you need a little bit of logic to make it idempotent, so that you have to test if the interface exists before you attempt to create it. And if you want it to be kind of convergent, if things are running concurrently, then you would have to be a bit more clever. And if you get an error creating the bridge, you would then have to retest if the E pair already exists and so on. Look back in the minutes. I've written a shell script to do all that, but it's a few lines of shell if you want it to do proper cleanup in all feasible error conditions and provide nice output and a useful nice CLI. So the next step is, which is probably why your IPv6 appears to not work, that by default you have a duplicate address detection in IPv6, which means that you wait 2 or 3 seconds from attempting to use an IP address where it's stuck in a tentative state, but it's not yet usable for binding, because there's a grace time where if you were to legitimately encounter a host ID collision within an IPv6/64, then someone else could claim that they are already using that IP address, and then your system wouldn't kick them off the net and you wouldn't be fighting over the address. But if a system is running properly, then the client would just pick a new one, but yours is a server, not a client, and especially if it's a DNS server, its IP address is important, so it should not give it up. The proper way to accomplish that is to not just enable IPv6, but set it to no _DAD, so no duplicate address detection. You can find the details in the manual. Then IPv6 just starts using IP addresses, doesn't do address collision detection, because if there's a collision, it's either a misconfiguration, which would cause problems anyway, or even worse, an attacker trying to abuse your system's kindness to kick it off the network and claim the IP address for shenanigans.
I don't use the IPv6 for the service. I
But
also don't test it. It's only to make it work for, let's say you want to reach out to a download site or something like that. So
Yeah.
you can eliminate the IPv6 steps, and the point is the etc.rc runs inside the jail. That's what Noah also commented.
Of course, the whole exec.start runs inside the jail. Each assignment to exec.start, and you can use a plus equal for the first one as well, just runs as one shell process with all the jail.conf parameters and jail.conf variables replaced.
And the point why I ask if it's advisable for a VNet jail in general, if you use IPv4 to run RC at least on the last step, or my observation is if you don't do this, all RC scripts from programs maybe of you write yourself or yourself from PKG are failed to bind if they bind to a specific address, because the address isn't configured when the RC scripts are running. They are configured in the jail. And a classic jail sets the IP address before they runs RC, correct?
So yes, before we start, but the thing is that it doesn't have a full network stack anyway to manage. And what you're doing here is the same, because it will run the exec.start hooks in the order they appear in the configuration. So
correct. It
what you can do
in
is
the jail the network, and after that it runs RC.
Yep, but you can also use the early exec.starts to call sysrc, and then the last one runs a configured one. So you basically inject the rc.conf assignments via sysrc commands and then run it. And then it's basically as if you had run some kind of configuration management on a virtual machine. Something
so you
like this.
maintain the RC the RC scripts in the jail.conf. You want to run in the jail.
Yeah, it's probably easiest if you want to run multiple servers, and in a way cleaner to run the full userland, because if you don't do it like that, then you have to take charge, and now you're responsible for making sure that some file in var run exists, like an empty directory for a PID file or something, if you don't run the rc.d scripts for it.
So I wanted to say I wanted to point out the what's it called? The reason why we in our company do the model that's in the handbook, which is we run the ifconfig commands in start. And the reason why we do that is we wanted to have a clear separation between operator and user. So basically the operator is operating at the host level. So that's why we do the ifconfig commands in the what's it called, in the jail.confs, and then from the user level, like if the user cats at rc.conf in the jail is like, they don't see anything about the network, right? Because everything is done by the operator. And like the ideal next level after that is to disallow the changing of the IPs from the jail, even if it's a VNet jail. I mean, that's a feature that exists in Solaris and Zones. Yeah, I think we had a feature like that got merged last year, right? Where we disallowed the changing of IPs.
What the feature does is
one at a time.
The feature you reference is the mandatory access control module for IP access control lists you can assign to jails. Which, yes, it kind of does that, but it doesn't prevent a stupid user from removing IP addresses. You can't force them to have them. Or if you give them a /24, they can misassign them within the allocation. And especially with IPv6, that means that you also have to kind of think about, okay, we need these linked local IP addresses and so on. And it becomes a bit annoying to enumerate it all. It makes sense that you want to restrict them to some /64 and link local, but rich link local, that becomes annoying to deal with.
Mhm.
Because, what if they want to change something? Unless you have everything automated, this is, in my opinion, too tedious and fragile for
Yeah.
the usual config management systems. Yeah.
Yeah, so for that is why we do the management from the jail.conf and not that, because historically we loved doing it internally, as in the jail, and we loved the start dot start if dot interface name. That's a very legacy thing in FreeBSD that never got removed, and it's very useful actually in Etsy. So you can have Etsy/start dot. I don't remember what the exact file is. I have to check. But there's a file in there that you can set, which is basically if the device becomes available, then the commands in that file are get executed. I'll send an example in a second.
No, it won't happen like that in a jail.
But it does.
Yes, but only when you create it synchronously. It doesn't happen asynchronously in a jail.
I see
Because
what
normally if you plug in, let's say USB Ethernet dongle in a FreeBSD host system, the device event handling daemon devd will get an event from the kernel, consume that event, and dispatch it by running, let's say, the ether whatever script, which in turn then runs netif start and potentially routing. And that works, so it feels like you expect, but a jail can't run the devd daemon because there can be only one per kernel. And there's no good way to proxy these events into the jail. So if you create it and then run the rc.d script, yes, then it works. But it will not happen if you at runtime create a new interface inside the jail. Let's say you create a second WireGuard tunnel or something like that. The script will just stay inert and will not auto run. Yeah.
And that's an example of doing WireGuard on FreeBSD without the WG config. Sorry, the WG quick.
What I do is the following. To run WireGuard, I have a script like this. Bam. And then just symling that script to the name of the interface, like WG1 or 2 or 3, or a renamed one. And it will just check if there's a WireGuard configuration for it, and if so, it will set the configuration without filtering, so you can only put the pieces in there which the WG setconf accepts, and the rest is done via rc.conf with no WireGuard specific magic, just the normal FreeBSD RC net AF stuff. So I listed in cloned interfaces. I have IP address and route configuration via rcconf, not via the WireGuard configuration. And then it works without fancy rc.d scripts, which are stuck in review since
Niklas, so there is benefit in doing either or way, depending on your deployment model. So like, for example, in my home setup, I do what Jan says, right? I have everything properly configured in rc.conf and all of that. In our customer locations, as sad as it is, we don't assume that the customer is very smart and they might easily mess up the networking in the jail. So we do it from the host to the jail. In the jail.conf, which has its own benefit. So I don't know how that answers your question, but just jump in if you have any more questions.
And Noor has a point.
Noor has a point, yes.
Well, the discussion is, of course, I think that's one side that what Niklas wanted to know about, but also from documentation perspective, if you take the most common generic cases, would then the documentation be correct? Because he tried what looks like a simple example and the documentation didn't prove to be working out of the box.
The next question I would have is, how is your bridge configured? Where's the host IP address? Is it on the bridge interface or on some other member interface? And can you run ifconfig on bridge 0 and share the output?
I know that you configured on the bridge interface. I have to look. I guess I do it wrong in my test VM, but
what do you mean by doing it wrong?
It's on the interface.
That will break. For IPv4, maybe not immediately, but it's completely unusable with IPv6. And
yeah, that's
will
okay.
Not work.
That's okay. The point or my question was if it's advisable or if the default is the correct one or not in the handbook. Because if you, let's say we only use IPv4 and we configured on the bridge, that's the way the handbook mentioned, if I'm correct. And I install some service in the jail. And I configure the startup of the service in the rc.conf file of the jail for unbound or whatever service binds. And then for unbound, in example, I set a fixed IP address in the configuration file.
Right. So no, the handbook is not correct. I was just going over the VNet
and this
section.
Is my question. If it a good default to say you run RC first, because if you do this and you treat it like, let's say, a lightweight virtual machine without any hardening, only the separation part, then there is no address. And if you run this verbose, it breaks the default package installation and use of rc.conf and the configuration file.
Yes, you are.
Show the error
and
messages?
This is the user experience.
Yeah, no, we should open an issue and maybe just send a patch. Is Alexander in the call? No.
He's not, but hopefully he'll
Creatonian
catch
is,
this.
yeah. I'll let him know in Discord in a sec. It's just one line that we need to bring the first line of exec start to be the last line of exec start, basically. That's all that needs to be done technically.
I'm not,
no, that won't work.
Why?
You have to have because the second line in the example in section 17.5.3 of the handbook, these two exec lines here.
17.5.
These are the two exec lines as copy and pasted.
3 ones.
The first one defines the IP address, and that IP address is now configured in the normal CIDR notation. So this is important because you have to have the directly connected route to in this example, /24 IPv4 prefix to be able to have an indirect route to the default gateway, which has an IP address canonical.1 in the subnet on that interface. So if you try to install the default route, it will just fail to resolve the next hop because it doesn't have any route to the next hop.
No, wait. Now I'm saying the first line of exec start, which is like the first line in the config, is the third line in the code block, which says binsh etcrc. That should become the last line of exec start.
Yeah, the important part.
It should. In this case, yes.
The important part, if you want to.
Our guest brought us here, so go ahead, guest.
If you want to mimic the RC, the way the FreeBSD system sets up all these parts with the normal AC system, you have to configure the network in the jail first, because NetIF is running before all the service scripts if there is no script which says no. And I don't know if there are many, but for the most services, that's not the case.
And I'll also share, just in case if you need it, I'll also share my code. Michael, can I paste in the docs? Yeah, I think I
Of
can paste
course.
in here. Illuria jailers, a new jail.conf based on customer feedback and needs. We ended up doing this. There are some improvements that I discussed about with Jan, but I haven't had the time. But this is the one that I'm liking. You wanted Consolas? No, you wanted Courier New. There you go.
Courier.
So I'm gonna just make sure that I haven't missed anything. One sec. This one comes here, just to make it more persistent. This one comes here. This one comes here. And then let's do this one comes here. That's pretty much it. If I go over the doc, so what we changed is we added a UUID. This is randomly generated thanks to the free BSD. I think 13 and up, you can do UUID-R, UUID gen-R, which will be random, and we just take the first part of that. The ID is just historical. We don't use it. DFS rule set. The rest is almost the same. Breach domain, VNet, and then the VNet interface. The reason why we did J, UUID EP0B is because you might also have EP1B, because we've seen a lot of VNet jails that might require two interfaces, one to the WAN and one to the LAN, right? So a very common example of this is an application service where it has a WAN interface where it's talking with the internet, and a LAN interface talking with a database instance. So that's why we did this part, which is the EP. But so you could easily have EP0B and EP1B, EP0A and EP1A. EP1A for its counterparts. Now the prepare script is also nice. Jan had some improvement of ideas, but I keep forgetting what it is. The basic idea is if the ePair interface exists, destroy it first and then continue. The idea here is to make sure that it's kind of idempotent. I'm not sure.
It's not quite idempotence if you destroy it.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
exactly what I do is
Tough
instead
idempotence.
And then go on.
I put in the effort to detect the current state, compare it against the specified one, and only patch that what has to change.
Yes.
And if anything fails, I remember which stack parts have already changed and
Yes.
back those out. But in some cases, I do one more thing, and that is I check if maybe there was a race condition because someone, let's say it's creating the bridge and you started two jails in parallel. Then it could be that one created bridge 0 successfully, the other created bridge 0 or tried to and failed, or you tried to create a bridge and give it a new name, and then both could have, in the worst case, both created a bridge, but only one can successfully rename it to the same name. So both shell scripts running concurrently now have created a bridge, but only one can rename. Both want to rename to the same name. What now you have to dispose of the extra bridge and then find out that your desired state is reached and there was no error. The alternative is to use a log file to make it into an error if you still run it. But yeah,
and then
it's possible.
And then in the pre-start, we run it in a single command, 3 commands. Basically, one of them is just assigning a variable that we create an ePair. We don't care what the number is. It could be ePair 0, could be ePair 300. We don't care. Then we just do a renaming of the one that's returned. Usually, if config would return the A, so we rename that, and then we rename the B the same way, doing the string substitution, character substitution in SH. The rest is pretty much the same. Since you're doing IPv6, I like this configuration. I don't know if it's very correct, but it is working, and we haven't had any issues with it, which is accept RTADV, and then we assign a static IP address. This is a real production machine. It's our web server, a public-facing web server, and then we do RTSOL. The reason why we do that is because the Vultr IPv6 gateway might change based on RTSOL. They recommended that, so we do that, and in the end, as you expect, we just run etcrc, which is going to start the jail. And for the destruction, it goes basically the same way in opposite. What I would like to have in jails, in the jail command itself, is to be able to tell the jail command, do not run prepare and pre-start, only execute start. Does that make sense? So
No.
when you create a jail, what it does, it runs the prepare, it runs the pre-start, and then it runs the start. I would like a way for the jail command to tell it only execute these specific sets of releases, these specific sets of steps, because we have a pre-start, start, release, post stop. There was one more that Noor just wrote in the chat. I think it was exec created. That's running on the host environment, but on the host environment after the jail's creation. So these are, I would like to be able to specify to the jail command which level of, so like by default, it should stay as is. Obviously, if you do -c, it will just run the creation commands. So, that's pre-start and prepare and start and blah, blah, blah. But I would love to also to have the ability to say it, hey, run only the starter scripts. Of course, it should be sane and say, hey, the jail is not created. I can't run the starter script. So it'll be, so we still have to think about this, but I don't know if this is a useful feature only for me or for other people as well. So we can discuss that later, but yeah, go on.
I don't think it's a useful feature. I'm afraid that you expect the jail command to be more than it is. It is not it's not a kind of Kubernetes controller running a convergence loop or something. It basically knows two directions, up and down, and the configuration. And instead of having a completely kind of running repeatedly the same state machine until it converges into the desired state, it once computes the just list of things to do, and then it runs through that list of commands. And for your use case, if your prepare step is too expensive or too disruptive or something, I would recommend that you put some wrapper in your hook to record, for example, by creating a ZFS a snapshot or setting a user property or something, or just a file in var_run or var_db, depending on how persistent it should be, that this is already done. So that
Sorry, I didn't get on running his request. So you want to, I'm assuming that these hooks, if you use the OCI term, sorry, run in a certain order in the start. And if you don't set any, like, let's say, exec.created to any, let's say, custom script or command, it will be executed, or it is like skipped?
No, it's not skipped. So if you say jail create, the order will be prepare, restart, start, created. Those are the exact things that it will run, right? What I want to do is say create, but only execute the start and started. Don't run the prepare and the pre-start, right? I want to specify exactly which hooks I want to run. Basically, I want to have dangerous mode.
Like a fast start.
But if you don't configure pre-start and post-start to any custom commands of yours, then as if nothing happens. So what would be?
Yes. So good point.
What's the use case?
The use case is someone might have changed something, and I don't want it, or I want it to run specific hooks. Like, hey, do the jail post a stop, but don't do the release. I don't want you to run the release. Why? Well, I have my reasons. Let's say I don't want the interface to be destroyed. Maybe I want to debug it. Right now, of course, I can just go into the config file, comment out that line, and then just run it again. I mean, that's exactly how we do it now, right? But I want also to tell it which exact hook to run. Hey, that might even bring us to the ability to have custom hooks at that point, like it doesn't have to be specific strings of pre-start, post-start. It could be anything. Could be build. Could be I don't know. Could be setup. I don't know what the possibilities could be. But I mean, the bare minimum of that is to have the ability to run hooks in the steps in the order that you want, or include or exclude them. But I said this is a very unique feature that like I need specifically. So it might be useless for anyone else.
Yeah, but how would you control that select list beyond executing things pretty manually with an external script or something?
I mean, I could imagine having like -C capital to run specific hooks, or like running
And you
dash
specify the list
R.
of hooks?
Yeah,
You would
Okay.
have
something like that.
include or exclude list, I would think. So
Yeah, you can have like include, or like yeah, or like I small, sorry,
whatever
yeah,
the letters
I
are saying.
capital for including, I small for excluding, whatever it is, right? Like you could specify something like that, but the logic becomes complicated. I want to be very clear on this. This is not a a weekend project. Like this needs proper
Antonik,
thinking. Yes, dear.
there may be a way you can build something very similar out of what you already have, and that is to use multiple jails.
Okay.
And then you would have like a container jail, and inside of that, you have different jails, potentially with the same path. So
I
that
see
you
what
have
you mean.
like, and now you
Yeah.
can start and stop them, and they have dependencies in between each other.
Yeah.
And then you can effectively bring it down a level and up again by starting and
Yeah.
stopping just one of the jails.
You can layer jails like that?
Yes.
You can have recursive jails, yes, that's been supported, I think,
Recursive,
since
yes.
previous.
Layered.
No.
No, it is
Not
the
nested,
layering is in
recursive.
the user's mind, not anywhere else right now.
Well, same
And
path or
that's how it should be.
paths that are nested below each other.
No, it could be
Both
the
is
same path.
possible.
Okay.
Yeah. So like you can have one file system, let's say jails.0, which in one layer of jail is running Nginx, and in another layer of jail, but in the same file system, it's running PHP, for example. I mean, that's a
but
bad
same file
idea and
system, not
useless,
the same
but
root
yes.
file system. They're still nested. They're not
Actually, it
overlaid.
can be the
Or
same
could
root
you?
file
Oh my God.
system.
Yeah, I guess.
That's what the
Essentially, what
jail
I meant
Especially if
service
was to have the
does.
same path
Yeah.
parameter.
Yeah, like no, this is free BSD. You can do whatever you want.
You can.
Yeah. So anyway, that was my idea. I'm still thinking about this because like we thought this might make jails overcomplicated. Like maybe we as a jail vendor and an MSP should think about this problem, not the host operating system itself. And the other one
Jamie,
is
where are you?
and another one is a bug report. I don't know if it's an actual bug or like if it's our bad case. Is basically
Yeah.
when we were using depend, it was starting the jail twice.
Oh.
For some reason. I don't know if it's a bug, or I mean we couldn't even replicate it properly, but we kept seeing it.
The problem you're potentially seeing is that it's not using the same jail.conf, potentially because of the rc.d script logic
Yes.
triggering. And then what happens is that you can have different jail command invocations using different effective configurations because they don't start from etc jail.conf. But if you happen to accidentally name your jail.conf something which triggers the old pre-FreeBSD 14 multiple jail.conf support, which was hacked into the rc.d script by someone who should
I'm
shall
still
remain
very sorry
nameless.
about that. I'm still very sorry about that.
Yep. Hey, it was useful to a lot of people, but right now it's a foot gun because especially if you try to include something, and instead of including the default etc jail.conf, it will then pass via -f a different configuration file. and now you can have different definitions for the same name. And yeah, this can cause problems, especially when you also try to assign different jail IDs to them by specifying the jail ID explicitly in the config file. Because then if the jail command thinks that it already knows the jail ID, it will not enumerate them for a name collision. It will just trust the configuration, and then you can create two jails with effectively same names but different jail IDs, and things become really confusing unless you've dug through the implementation details.
But wait, because what you mentioned has to do with the second topic that Nicholas wants to talk about. Can you create jails with different IDs but the same name?
The $ID used there is just a variable. It has no meaning to the kernel. It's only something which is stored in a variable to be expanded.
Can you have multiple jails with the same name but different IDs? Was that
I'm
the question?
afraid yes.
Yeah, I don't. Yes.
Yeah,
It is
it's
possible.
a
It will
hack.
not do it unless you explicitly specify the jail ID, because then otherwise it will look it up by enumerating through linear search through all jail IDs until it finds a matching name. But if you
To be
specify the jail
fair,
ID, it will not do the
so
search for
Nicholas,
the.
Nicholas, you
I
will have
came
this
ac-
weird problem where if you do like JExec DNS, if the jail name is DNS, and you have two jails with the same name DNS, but different JIDs 10 and 11, it will JExec into 10 because that's the first one it matches. So
Yeah.
we've been over
But-
that. Yeah.
It has a
But
go
that's
ahead.
not what
Uh-huh.
that's not what I came across about. I'm played a little bit and think about, okay, let's do one jail1 to something and use this for a name. And I run into that if you haven't any characters in the name of the name part from jail.conf, it defaults to the JID. And the name variable isn't expand to the JID, so the name variable fades because it's empty.
So that is only a problem.
And I can't find documentation to this in the jail.conf page. So I was wondering, because they only said, yeah, characters and numbers are valid, and you can set a name, and then you also have the name ID, but the name ID is empty, and it's the jail ID which is the name. And you
So
can't.
wait, so
you
your
can't
jail
escape it.
name, so your
It's
jail
100,
name is
for
only
example.
numbers? Okay, so your jail
Yeah, it's
name is
only
100, but
Yeah.
in that case, the jail, the name of variable is not expanding.
Yes, it's the name is used as the jail ID, and
Name is
there's
used as jail
no
ID.
$name in the jail.conf.
I've never seen this before. One sec.
That's why I thought you need to come to the call, Nicholas.
This is going to be interesting. Where can I test this? Okay.
I can show it to you if you want.
Please do.
Please do. So the jail name is only numbers.
Yeah,
So
I
the
checked.
name variable expands into GID.
I checked. There is a line in the code that if the name is specified and it is digits only, it is interpreted as the ID and not the name.
Yeah.
Yes.
I didn't look at the whole code where the name should be set, even if it's like that. But
Okay, let's take a look here. We can ignore IPv6. This jail starts because I have hard coded the path with 100 and all the other things. I would normally use the $name, so I can use the similar configuration file or generate them with Ansible to set up multiple basic jails, I would say. So
can I ask you to modify the file?
Sure.
Can you, in the exec pre-start, add another pre-start? Yeah, in the exec pre-start, add another line which says, oh, and I love the red column. That's amazing. Reminds me, oh, that's amazing. Yeah. Yeah, right before the first exec pre-start, add exec.prepare.
Before the first.
Yes, before the first exec pre-start. That's on line 22. Yeah, add in there exec.prepare, which equals to echo variable name ID. I want to see what it looks like.
Echo dollar.
Name, yes, and then do and what's the opposite of true? False. Does false return a non-zero value?
Yeah, that will stop the start if you do and false.
Yeah, that's what I want to do. I wanted to not, just and false, so it will not continue after that. And just you can close.
For SH?
Yes.
Also, the spelling.
What you should do is put the dollar name in double quotes, and you have to escape the double quotes with a backslash. So
double quotes, you mean this one?
Yes, double tick and then a backslash in front of that. What this means is that now dollar name gets escaped and pass through. Yep, like this.
Yeah.
Or even better, uses. Please, let's do it different. Use a single tick instead, and then you don't have to escape. And it does something even more useful. It protects the name should it get passed through from the shell expansion. So just a single tick and no backslash in front. Yep.
Perfect.
So now if it gets expanded by the jail.conf, we will see whatever value it has. If it does not get expanded, we see dollar name.
Don't forget to put the semicolon at the end of line 21.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, that's a syntax error, right?
So, okay. So now can you run jail-v-
One moment, please. It's running,
Sure.
so I have to destroy it first.
Variable name not found.
Well,
oh my
see
god.
The problem.
Okay, that's weird.
That's
That
fine-ish. Commented out, and we already know the result now.
Can you? Okay, fine. Yeah, comment it out and let's do it. I wonder if Jan, what about writing it this way? Because there is a difference, I think. Like this.
Let's see what I find in the chat. No, there's not really a difference here. The problem is that assumes that a name parameter has been set, tries to expand that, and so it does expand, but there is no name bound. So if you now try, what did you try to do? Name now, can you set name equals 100?
The string 100.
Okay, I would say $JID, but yes.
And one sec, you might need to do dollar name equals 100.
What?
Yeah.
Name is a parameter, not a variable.
I know, but like the parameter is not expanding. So if you say that to the variable, the variable
unbound.
Would expand.
That's the problem.
Okay, fine. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Let's
try
see
both.
what happens now.
Let's
one
try
at
both.
a time.
With or without?
Yep.
With or without? Right this?
Try it like that first. Semicolon
yeah.
and then there's a syntax error. You have to have a semicolon at the end of the line.
Yeah, and if you can uncomment the exec prepare.
I already have.
No, uncomment, not comment.
Uncomment. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Jail-c -v-c or -cv.
Works either way.
Oh, really? Okay. Echo 100. Okay, well that's good. Okay, that's good. Okay, yeah, you can go back again and delete the and then false.
And now you can make it more flexible and set. What you could do is if you open the editor again.
One moment, I have to look if it already has.
No, that's the prepare. So it wasn't the first goes the
Yeah, but
prepare.
if we start it again, I have to destroy this. If we start it again, it won't start. I already.
I thought it goes prepare and then pre-start.
Prepare the first, yes.
Right?
But it failed to start the other time. Stop the
Oh,
other
I
time
see.
around.
I see.
So
Okay,
what you
we
can
change
do
it.
is now is outside of the block even say name equals $JID. Put it in
And
double.
remove the other name.
Yeah, the other assignment should then be that would make it default. To that, you still have to put a semicolon at the end.
Yeah,
Delete
you can
that.
delete line 4, and then you can also delete
I'm
line
curious to see
20,
what happens now.
and also delete the prepare line, which is line 23.
No, we want to see the result. I would say.
Oh, okay, sorry, my bad. I'm just, yeah.
If it happens.
Okay.
Well, actually, this shows the issue because in the main page,
Nice.
Yeah,
This
okay.
for all J is correct.
So,
we
okay,
try
yeah,
to
this
set this for all J's.
yeah, this wouldn't work for multiple jails.
It would.
No, look at that. It says
would, as
cannot
long as you only
redefine.
put the assignment inside the jail and only inside those jails where
Well,
you
yeah.
abuse that feature.
Well, yeah, in that
You
case it
can
would.
argue if you put that name equals $JIT inside the jail block, it will not break the configuration. Just
Okay.
next line.
But this is the issue. If you read the main page and see the rules that a jail name should follow in the jail.conf, this is a very valid name, actually, the 100.
Yep.
Yes.
And I can't escape it with double or single quotes. This doesn't change the behavior. Yeah.
So
the problem is that during the parsing of the basically you open the jail block, the 100 open braces, and the normal behavior is that now the name variable is bound to the name you specified in the block, like 100. The problem is there's another older logic where if the name is a decimal number, then it uses, instead of the name, it binds the JID.
Yeah.
And so the name remains unbound. I would argue it's a bug in the specification which manifests as a bug in the implementation.
Yeah.
So if you now inside the block above path just say basically insert a new second line and say name equals $JID, then your jail should work.
Name equals dollar. Yeah.
$JID.
Okay. Let's
you can only
run
do
it
that
again.
Because there's special logic for the name, you can only do that once. Then the failure we wanted to see, because as we can see here with the run command, where it says name in exec.prepare, in the command, it actually executes the name has been replaced by the name.
Question.
Yep.
So let's say Nicholas was, can you do JLS? I want to see the other jails. Yes. So let's say he's rebooting his DNS 0 and DNS and 01 for some reason. And he arrived at 99 and then he arrived at 100. And then he did jail create 100. Okay? There's already a jail with the ID 100. What would happen to the new jail that's trying to be created?
It would just say jail already running.
I see what you mean. Because it's going to
We
be like,
can- we
oh,
can
the
try this.
It would just consider that to be the jail event. It would say, yeah, jail, I don't know the exact error message, but it would say that the jail is already created.
Hmm.
And would refuse to run the stuff beyond that. But the problem is that jail IDs below 1 million are auto-allocated from. So if you want to use static jail IDs without risking jail ID collisions between auto-allocated jail IDs and
It has to
manually
be 1
specified
mil-
ones, you have
It has
to
to be
pay
1 million.
jail IDs above 1 million for your static jail allocation.
And the
jail ID
JID,
allocation.
is it 32-bit or 64-bit?
32 and signed. So
32-bit,
you have 2
okay.
billion, and the first million is used for auto allocation.
We have 2 billion, but the first 1 million is auto allocate. Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
So like
Let's
1/2 of 1,000th of an ID space.
set the
course,
JID for the
Yes, that would hard code the
anything
JID.
above 1 million is safe for
Yeah,
static
that's hard
allocation.
coded. So now you're
It's
starting
hard coded in
DNS
the
0
kernel.
again.
It's a define. You
DNS
would have to
0.
change the kernel source code to change that. It's really a one-line diff, but
Okay. And now if you run the, what's the name of it? The jail 100 again, it would say jail still
you
running,
just
huh?
run with
Okay.
CB again.
we have to remove your files, right?
Hmm?
The false
So,
part here.
Yeah, the just comment that
So
out
it
exactly.
starts.
yeah. Although if it's smart, even before doing that, it would say that the jail is still running. So let's see. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Okay. Makes sense. Yeah.
And I
Jan, we
can't
changed the DNS to 100. Yeah. So go on.
Yeah, I saw
and
it.
I can't set a jail ID because it's already set with the name.
Exactly. Yes.
I also tried.
Exactly. The real solution, in my opinion, is to not use a purely numerical jail name.
That's okay, but it has to be clearly documented. In my,
Oh yeah, I
my
totally
point
agree
of
that
view.
this is
Yeah.
by now it's long established behavior. Potentially there's someone out there who relies on that. So just cleaning it up isn't as easy. Maybe we should do it for 15.
Documenting it. Yeah.
And
Alexander, if you are
should
watching
definitely
this,
be documented.
please modify the man page.
Yep.
Now we have
And
a
double
docs
check for
person.
logic.
Yeah, and double check the logic to make sure that there are no, edge cases and all of that. Yeah.
Send me a message if you want someone to read through the
Give
Yeah.
Nicholas
spaghetti code in jail to verify the logic.
The
Well, I
manual
mean,
is in here. Point of order. Can you be extremely clear on what needs to happen, or change?
Oh, that's a very good question. The jail name variable in the jail command, and Nicholas, thank you for the demo. This was very useful. It might be even a
You're
feature,
welcome.
like Jan said. For a lot of people, this might actually be a feature. So
Yeah, it would be totally
yeah.
fine to say you have at least one character. And if you have only numeric numbers in the jail name defaults to the GID.
So whose screen are we watching? Yeah, Michael, you
That's
can go
me.
to.
I've got the handbook page open, and I got the document open, and I want something actionable.
You want to go to man.freebsd.org/jail.
So it's not the
.conf.
handbook; it's the manual, or both. Okay.
Yeah,
No, it's in the manual page.
man.freebsd.org/jail. Great. And the one that you're looking for is you want to scroll down a bit. Scroll, go. You will see too much. Go up.
To the
No,
example.
go up,
Okay,
go up, go up, go up, go up, go up. You don't need to find. It's okay. Go up, go up, go up.
Yeah.
I think the jail is good. I checked it with Nicholas this afternoon. It's the jail.conf is actually a bit specifically mentioning that the construct as the jail name, and no hint whatsoever that if it's a digit value or numerical value that will be assigned to an item.
Yes, the reason to do it like that is that it used to be a lot more common to just fire
Well,
of jails without a jail
Right.
configuration file,
Mhm.
and potentially, and you want to be able to reference those jail IDs directly, and yeah.
So this port is accurate in the jail command. Like Noor said, let's go to the jail.conf. There's a link to it.
Yeah, but see here, if no name is supplied, then
Mhm.
we assume that is the same as this. So actually, there's a double problem here, because even if it's
And every string
yeah.
every
The
string is
men,
valid, and numbers are a string, right?
yeah, wait.
Uh,
The problem is that the man page, in my opinion, implies that if you have an all numerical name, it should specified for your jail, it should be both the jail ID and the name. The
So
problem is only the jail ID is bound, not the name.
Because
but
number is not
But
valid.
the problem here is that you could also argue that a name is supplied through the jail block in the jail configuration, in which case, okay, it's this case doesn't matter, but now you have a behavior which, what does it mean to,
exactly.
so now we have to look into the jail.conf man page and
Yeah.
see if it says anything about what it means for the name block. So here, jail name.
Indeed, actually,
the
the
jail is
jail
defined by a set of name parameters. Typical
Mhm.
the jail
parameter.
from that perspective is even more confusing or not really clear.
I think it's so confusing that the implementer of the parser has overlooked this case.
So
That
someone
you
like
would.
someone
I
like
don't-
Nicholas can find it, and we have a new member in the group.
Yeah.
I see nothing else about the name itself. Then it just goes into the parameters directly, you know?
Exactly.
So can we control F name just to make sure that we didn't miss anything? Command F, sorry, we're on Mac, yes. Oh, not the name parameter, jail defined. Parameter values including jail names can be single tokens or quoted strings, a token, blah, okay.
So all the rest assumes that everything went okay, and we just can use it.
Includes,
Hello
that was...
to jail p.y.
First of all, I had no idea that we can have C-style comments. I completely forgot about that. Like, it's just blocked from my memory for multi-line comments, you know? So, yeah. Note that the name parameter is simply set at an image.
You can also
Okay.
have C-style escape sequences in string.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think at the top of the page before parameters where it says, you know, description, at the end of the description, it should say that the jail name, if the jail names are only numerical values, then that would be the jail ID. And the allocations of jail IDs are until the number 1 million. And
what should be possible to fix this up, but it would make the code even more annoying because it's a special case in an already messy part of the parser.
yeah.
During verbal expansion, check when you fail to expand name if JID is bound and then use JID. So that you build a special case into the variable expansion logic to, if name is not bound but jail ID is, then expand the name to the jail ID at the end so that you do not break configurations which already work around the count behavior.
That's what Knut suggested today.
Actually, you suggested, not me. I said it's a.
So
it's
repeat that slowly. If the name is not bound or the ID is not bound or what?
But
No,
can it be the other way? Yeah, sorry.
If
Go
the
ahead.
name parameter is unbound, but the JID parameter, JID, is bound, expand name to jail ID.
But wouldn't it be simpler if simply the same logic, just, okay, you have the value as Niklas demonstrated. It's numerical, so we can use it for the jail ID and at the same time set it to the name.
No, we
If
can't,
it-
because that would break existing configuration, which do the workaround we just said, which says name equals $JID inside that. If someone already encountered this and didn't report it, but just worked with the existing behavior, if now the parser would open a block and then bind name and jail ID, it would change the observable behavior and break existing configurations. But it would be the same thing to do if we started doing it from the beginning.
That's what I'm assuming. So once I didn't read the whole code, but the parsing starts with the name anyway, which at this moment it's also the ID. And if later in the parsing you're setting the name explicitly, that can be overwritten.
No, you can't change the name inside the jail block. Try it. You can only bind it if it isn't already bound.
Oh, okay.
You can, unlike other
That
things, you
breaks
cannot.
other purpose of the that breaks other parts of the parser. Yeah.
It breaks a safety net built in with good reason that you can't have a jail block with one name and then set the jail name to something else inside of it. Because that would result in a totally confusing behavior.
It's like Erlang. If x is equal to 5, x can't be equal to 6 later. So like, you want 6, do something else. So no, yeah, it wouldn't work that way.
You don't want the behavior of an old Fortran compiler where you can say 5 equals 3 and then every reference to that constant changes its meaning, and there's code out there which relies on that.
Clear. So you're
where
suggesting
basically your app using an implementation detail, there is no safety net, but you use like, oh yeah, I'm changing this literal's meaning. You're doing what? Yeah, you can't have a 5 here. You have to write 4 plus 1 if you want the value 5.
Cool.
Yeah.
Off topic. So the behavior is that the jail block has a name. You can't modify it within it. And what's this about? They're assigning ID to name or name to ID. And current behavior, what's desired behavior, and should the documentation be some?
Yeah, what we learned is this is technically a documentation issue, right? The first one you highlighted correctly. If no name is supplied, a default is assumed that blah, 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 blah. That's correct. In the jail.conf, we should mention that if the name is made of only numerical values, the name variable should be implicitly by the user, should be defined by the user that name equals JID. So, it would expand properly. That's number one. And
slow down. So if the name is only made of
numerical values, let's start with the first step. The JID. No, you were at the right place. If name is only made of numerical values, the JID will be equal to that value. And the name variable will not be assigned. The user needs to assign the name variable manually by doing name equals $JID.
Or using the JID variable instead of the name variable.
Yeah, or using the JID variable instead of the name variable.
Maybe the safer way in terms of seeing that you don't have a name variable.
Name equals $JID. Name equals $JID. Yes. I'll pass this to Alexander, and then I'll ask Alexander and Craytonian to work together to push this. And if they have any questions, we'll do it in tomorrow's Graybeards AMA, so we can answer the questions as well.
Niklas, what did you mean?
I said it already. You can use the JID instead of the name.
Okay.
So you don't have
Where's
to
the yeah.
set the name, the JID, and then maybe the line gets lost and you wonder why it's not working. If you want to use numbers consistently, use the JID variable, then
Yeah.
everything is clear.
Yeah. Did we miss anything in here? I don't think so. This looks very accurate as far as I can tell. Yeah. And Michael, on just a separate line as a side note, the the auto-assigned JIDs are from 0 to 1 million. 0 is the host, by the way, internally, but you never see it because the first jail you create is not the host, so it becomes 1 to 1 million, and you can have it up to 2 times power of 32. So if you want, no.
To the power of 31 minus 1 because it's assigned 32 bit.
It's signed. Okay. Yeah.
And the other thing is, it doesn't mean not jailed, the 0. It means current jail. So depending on what you do, if you, for example, use pgrep inside a jail, which has child jails, it will search within the current jail.
Oh, so 0 is self.
So
Okay.
It's like dot in the file system.
Yeah. Okay.
But actually, really, that's another surprise. The book for designing and the design implementation of FreeBSD refers to 0 as the root prison, basically the host.
Yes, it does, and it is correct in doing that. As in, there is a struct prison with a jail ID equal to 1 in the kernel. But at the system call level, when you reference a jail by ID, 0 can mean basically don't do anything special jail related, or don't, especially for example in pgrep, it means things like don't look into child jails, and then you implicitly end up with only the current jail, which can be that. So
so if you use it from within the jail, it is quote unquote.
If you're already in a jail, it's your current environment. Don't
Yeah.
search for a specific jail, but also avoid everything with not my jail ID.
Okay.
I wonder if there's an attack vector in that. I mean, yeah, there was 12 years ago. Yeah, never mind. I just remembered that someone found an attack vector for that 12, maybe even 15 at this point, years ago, and they fixed it. Yeah.
Cool.
So, I will assume this better communicates the problem, but please do not use this text as is.
No,
if not
no.
accurate. So maybe because there are about 3 ways to mention setting and assigning and this and that. So stay consistent with the current documentation.
Yeah, well, we'll ask a doc person to go over that, and then Jamie
good.
to confirm it.
So then, yeah, as long as that hits the proper review.
Yeah, we should merge. We should make sure.
Eyes on
we should
it
make sure
and
that's
native
merged by
English
15.
speakers, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah.
And Michael, did we also add that in the handbook we also should modify?
I was there, and then you said don't go there. So let me hop over.
No.
Punch back. Just one sec.
No worries.
So in the handbook, we had that open.
Section 15, section 50, one sec, section 17.5.3. Section 15.5.3, which says creating a VNet jail.
Sure.
There's a cold block, which says jail named VNet.
Just let me grab this for the doc.
By the way, if you click on the button, the square right next to it, it'll give you a link.
Yeah.
That's why I redid the whole thing with a new. Not really my favorite interface.
Okay.
But
so
sure.
which block?
Okay, a bit down. That's the one. Yeah, that's the VNet one.
Or VNet one. Okay.
Yeah, the VNet one, which says exec start equals RC, BNSH at CRC, the third line. That should become the last line of exec start at the bottom.
Exec start at the bottom of the block, or
at the bottom of the exec starts. So you see exec start at the bottom.
Yeah. Bottom here or bottom here? They're 2 bottoms.
Bottom of the block.
Bottom of the bottom.
The bottom of the bottom.
Go down.
Scroll down.
Yes.
You see exec start.
The last start.
Yeah. It should be after the last start. It should be exec start plus equals etc bnsh etc. Yeah, and
Squeezed
this
in
this
here to the, even if it
yes.
specifies bridge interface,
No, it should be yeah, that doesn't matter. It
that
should
might
be
confuse people.
okay. It should be exec start if config epair IP up, and then exec start route add default gateway, and then it should be exec start bnsh etcrc.
Okay, so hold tight.
Yeah.
I see
You
how,
already
like, why would RC be inside the, you know, the network setup, but I guess, or could it exist after absolutely everything or not? Because I see your
no,
point on
you're
sequence.
This is
I
not like it is not necessarily a network. It just has to be
It just happens
like
that
you
way.
you do the network and then you do exec start. Yep, and then plus equals
Let me just grab it
um
from whatever they're doing right of
yes.
them.
So there's
So
this
they
one
didn't do plus equals.
problem which this exposes. That is that during the exec dot created phase, the
Has to be plus
jail
equals.
is created, but the interfaces you specified in vnet.interface are not yet moved into the jail. The intention behind that is that you can create them there when you potentially already need things like the jail ID. But it means that you cannot do certain things in the created phase because the jail, while created, is not fully configured. But if you do it yourself with ifconfig.j from the host, you can create, for example, an epair and move one half into the jail and configure it. But then you must not name it in vnet.interfaces because then it will complain that it's not in the host anymore. So then you're you can do it everything in the shell script, but now you are hiding the list of interfaces from the config file and have to do it implicitly.
So this is a correct fix, or it's not a correct fix thanks to that nuance.
This is a correct fix. We're removing exec start from the top. We're putting it at the bottom. So you do the networking and then you do the booting of the complete user land. This is an accurate way of doing it, which was documented in the original blog post that they copied the code from after that. So I don't know. I know why actually. They just copy pasted and then added the things without fixing the top. Classic copy paste issue. Yeah.
Exactly what it looks
the
like.
classic
It's a
one.
copy editing.
Yeah, it's a copy editing from the top block from like 2 sections ago. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks neat to just append to your old example to add a new feature, but it has to go in between the pre-start and the existing start, so it's wrong to put it at the end.
So, and to toot your Armenian horn, this is where the handbook chapter
That's
came
not Armenian.
AM. I mean, you collectively.
Oh, yeah.
So
if you scroll a bit down, yeah, and that's the stop because it's always the same.
Start.
There you go.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, and I also do the LO setup because I don't know why, like in FreeBSD 9, it didn't work. So it was like just stuck in there to have the LO set up manually as well.
Interesting.
But no, I'm not using this one anymore. I'm using the one that I pasted beneath it. If you go a bit down,
yeah.
This is the one that we're using now.
Yeah.
It's much more complicated, solves more issues, and Jan still has some more improvements in here, which I still have to look honestly. And this is much neater. It uses the UUID instead of a GID or Sheety ID, as I used to call it, for the one that we were using. As a jail manager, our life is just much simpler, basically.
Okay, so the actual start is way down here after a bunch of like IPv6.
Yeah, set up LO, set up IP, set up gateways, and then yeah. And it works. I mean, it's been going like multiple customers, and they're very happy with this. So we haven't had any serious issues, honestly, and no issues, honestly. So can't complain. What else do I want to say about this config? I still have to look into a better way of having prepare and pre-start merged together, the if config parts, make it actually idempotent. Like if it exists, don't do anything. If it doesn't exist, then create it instead of doing the way that I'm doing it now.
As long as you're only using sysrc assignments and not set operations, the sysrc check mode allows you to check from inside the jail either created or start hook if the variable is already effectively configured to the value you want.
Yeah.
And only do the change if it isn't the case. Basically, you would do sysrc-c, the assignment, then a disjunction operator, and then
by the way, Michael and Noor, one more thing I wanted to add in Jailer, this was a suggestion by my team, is having something like this, and I'm typing it in the chat. Maybe I just type it in the doc, by the way.
There. Yeah.
Well, something like IPv4 start, and then let me just copy paste from above because that would make it easier. Let's say this. And then paste that, and then, whoa, I pasted in the wrong place probably. Yes, okay. And then that, and then IPv4 end in all the jail.conf blocks. And the idea was, like a user might do something like this: jailer edit .0 address is, I don't know, 192.168. 580/24, right? So like this would be something that the user would do, right? And then I'll be like, oh, you want to modify the IPv4? Great. So I'll just, remove that IPv4 start end and then put in the new, whatever the syntax should be, basically. And I had no issue with it. The team actually made a good suggestion. So by default, if you do jailer edit .0, what it does is it just calls your editor in and then tries to modify the file. That's what it actually does, right? Again, very similar to VM config VM name that VM Beehive does. It's exactly the same idea that we have there. But I like the idea of like doing jailer edit, the jail interface, the jail name and dash, the same parameters of creation, basically, and it would modify things for you. But for that, to know which part of the jail config that we're modifying, we would need blocks like this, which I like the idea, but I'm just thinking, do you think it's too much? Jan, you might have an opinion about this because, well, you have opinions about everything that's jail related, which is very useful for me. It's like, hey, free money. I'm on a tram. Good opinion, and I like that. Okay.
That's a great opinion. From the tram. Cool. So food for thought. Yeah. Yes, you know.
Sorry.
But don't be sorry.
But would it? I mean, I think the issue, not the issue, the challenge here is that there is a big space of freedom, and it's up to the sysadmin or someone who's configuring jails is to order them in the right order that at the end starts and configure the jail. Would it be a good idea that instead of the start or in addition to that we have also hooks or something else where you say, okay, this is configuration for networking explicitly. This configuration storage explicitly.
So do you see where I was coming from at the beginning of the call, where I wanted the specific calls to be executed?
Yeah, correct. and at least because more or less the order of actions when it comes to let's say the configuration or the infrastructure related configuration for a jail to start is, well, I think it should be clear enough. It's not like at one time you should do this first, or should it last? You need, they say, okay, always the networking there, you need the storage there, etc., etc. And we don't. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say, actually.
Yeah. Well, I mean, another idea is instead of doing exec start and having a command in there, you would have a script which says etc jail.conf.d setupnetwork.sh, and you pass it a jail name, and it does all of the black magic that it needs to do, right?
Well, yeah.
Or in our case, the shell magic, which I like the idea, but it means that file has to be set up. That file would be part of Jailer, but one of the deals of Jailer was that if you delete Jailer and all of its files, the jail should still continue working, right? That's like one of the biggest. So if in IOCage, if you delete IOCage, you can't run jails that are made by IOCage. Same with Bastille, same with any other jail manager, which makes sense. I mean, that's their challenge. But our challenge was, and still is, that even if jailer is removed from the planet, the jails would still continue to run. So like, okay, how do you ship that script? Do you create that script on the fly? So these were kind of the, we have weird challenges because of our customers. You know, it's not a very general purpose location. Antonik, I have a different solution. You probably like, yeah, whenever you're off the tram, please, I would like to hear that. But you know, this was the easiest idea to implement. You just write a simple awk script in Jailer, and it would do the removal and the insertion of the new code as is. So it's poor man's solution. And from the user perspective, as in our customer perspective, they're like, even if they don't know jail.conf and they see the file, they're like, oh, so this is where the IP is being configured. This is where that's being configured. So they like that idea as well. It's like it becomes kind of like documentation for the end customer, which is nice. I mean, I have no. That's the thing. I have no strong opinions. I like when I have a strong opinion, so that I can say yes or no. You know. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. What else? I have no other topics for today, and Rod left us early
He did.
apparently.
He's like booking flights and stuff. Craytonian, do you have
Okay.
any questions or points or thingies? You have video, but no audio. So I guess interpretive dance is the answer. Or chat.
I don't see. Yeah. Nicholas, anything else that we missed for you? Do you need any other help?
Yeah, you dropped some bombs. Did you get your questions answered?
No, I'm only a fan of if we have documentation, it should work. And I have the benefit of not doing this 15 years and a few iterations. So if I came across something that seems not right for me after using FreeBSD for a few years now, and mostly, yeah, solving really small problems, it's worth mentioning it, right? So to make it more beginner friendly for others too.
Yes, make that 747 jetliner easy to pilot. I guess Jan won't be helping with package 2.0, which broke several PkgBase things because he's on a train. I have a completely off-topic question. I found that one can, easily base64 encode a string and decode a known string from Windows, like UTF-16 LE encoding, which is 16 characters wide versus much shorter than that, but I cannot figure out a way on a Unix system to produce that Windows style UTF-16 long/wide output, which is kind of frustrating. I've got an example here. So anyway, that's only for those who have harmed themselves in Windows environments and tried to use Unix to manage those Windows environments. I got my talk last year. Oh, by the way, what should I give a talk about this year at, say, BSDCan and Friends? All those calls for participation are wrapping up. So here's
What about using icons?
I did, and I changed, it gives, if you do icons-L, you get like dozens of possible syntax, and I got the exact same output no matter which ones I chose and including like Koi 8 and whatever weird ones I could find. So if you're open to hacking later, Jan, maybe we can do that direct. I'll just show you what I tried. And I thought this should work. Oh, this should work. So here's the funny part. You take the Windows style, I'll call it, like long or wide, which is 16 characters wide, and you get this answer. And if you say use base64 to decrypt one here, actually you could have done echo this into that to get that. And then I have some consistency, but no way to achieve this beast. And I don't know if that's some additional steps, but iconv till 2 in the morning didn't do the trick. Anyway, how soon are you in one fixed location, Mr. B? Otherwise, let's see what time it is. UTC, la la la.
11 minus 4, that's
1943. 1942. We were talking about bombings of Dresden earlier and such things, UTC. So other points, questions, ideas, funny jokes,
alles
you
gut.
name it. Alles gut. Nor, thank you for dropping in. I've seen you on social media, but no, don't be a stranger.
No, I
Join the
will
dark side.
The fourth.
I am already on the dark side, but I just didn't want to be like I'd say we have a saying in Egypt, what? The one who has more than one mind is kind of a liar. So I want to focus first on don't take the sayings literally or serious. It's just a saying. Not first, but more focus on OCI now, and now that it's coming to a conclusion, I believe I will be more here as well. So.
Cool. And we definitely want some executive summaries on all that because it's been happening in parallel. And it's like, oh, where were you 20 years ago? We kind of needed that structure and app stores and you name it. Better late than never. Shukran,
And
amigo.
yeah, honors.
Yeah, who wants the honors? Noor, would you
I
like
want
the
to
honors?
give it
And
to
hopefully you
someone
know what
else
I mean.
today.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
The honors, the honor
Yeah.
today, I would give to Nicholas, I believe.
Nicholas.
Yes.
Hopefully, oh, you're the fan. You've been watching the shows. You know what I'm talking about.
You mean the like and subscribe?
Exactly that. Thank you
Yes.
very much, Danke.
You're welcome.
Okay, everyone. Talk to you soon. I'll hang around a little bit. Sounds like Jan is hopping off his tram. And I wish you a great week. Ciao.
Recording stopped.